Joining me on the program now from the thinkfarm.org, John Peachy. JP, kia ora, nice to see you again.
Yeah, killer, Andrew. Yeah, mate. I mean, it's what a topic, what a subject, what a few days.
Yeah.
I must admit. Thursday when I found out, I was at a workshop in Christchurch working with a bunch of leaders and had no idea, and then read it actually sitting in the airport on Thursday, late Thursday afternoon, and I shed a tear. I was upset
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, apart from anything else, the guy was just trying to do his best, with the skills that he had. So it's dangerous, but it does remind me that actually the social media is just, when I say the social media, I sound like a boomer, don't I? Social media is a transportation method for lies and hatred. I mean, we know that the media, God bless us, we're in it,
Yeah.
survives on controversy.
Yes.
It's interesting that there are some other radio stations out there that their intent is to entertain and inform. Well, all the time you've got to work out, well, who's doing what here? Are we informing? Are we just being entertained? Are we being
Yeah.
grasped by the headlines? And social media, of course, has seized on that to brilliant effect. I mean, we can demonize the owners and the founders of those companies, but they've done it at such amazing effect. The question is, biblically focus on stuff which is beautiful, which is nice, which is lovely, which is beneficial,
Mm.
because there's not a great deal within the social media realms. Even though people put, there's tons of good preaching resources, there's good 30-second quotes from people, but really I think it's a distraction. I think it's a huge distraction.
It does make the headlines, though, and it has dominated social media. As you say, it leans into the algorithm, whether that be left or right. There's lots of fuel for that fire. It is tragic when any young person loses their life because they're shot because of hate and ideology. But actually, that's pretty normal for the United States. This is a tragedy that that unfolds day after day. But this has become such a big thing even for us here in New Zealand. As far as I know, Charlie Kirk never travelled to New Zealand. He had lots of followers in New Zealand, but this has become disproportionate, I suppose, in its influence, disproportionate into how much oxygen it's taking up in people's conversations at the moment. I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but in terms of the issues that we're facing here in our nation and our community, it's a distraction at best, in that it sucks the oxygen out of the room for any other conversation.
Well, I think that's absolutely right, and I think when you can look at in other major world events, the American political situation, of course. I mean, Trump derangement syndrome and everything else that they call it. I
Yep.
mean, the Israeli Palestinian situation, the Russian Ukraine situation. There are things that we should not be ignorant about. But I always challenge: what are you practically doing? Can you practically do anything about some of these situations
Yeah.
apart from praying or potentially giving to Red Cross or
Yeah.
sorts of things? But one of the evils of, and I think the most dangerous evils that we see of the social media algorithms is confirmation bias. Is it's going to feed you information that backs up what you think you know already,
Yeah.
and it's very clever at doing that. And while you see these young men, I mean, the young man that's committed this murder, no different to the young man that tried to assassinate President Trump last year,
Yep.
mentally unwell, confirmation bias, and these things just reaffirm their belief systems, and it's the same for us. I mean, the way that we approach some of these international stories, international situations that we have very, very little to do with at all,
Yep.
is really quite shocking. And it's why I have this crazy thing, Andrew, called the 50-meter ministry.
Okay.
So let's just change the subject for a moment because I think it's appropriate. I mean, whenever something distracts you from the core values of your life or the core focuses of your life, then it's a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
And God has asked us to do certain things, and we're encouraged to go to God to find out what have you got for me? What are these works that you put, according to scripture, you put aside for me
Yeah.
before the beginning of time?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty heavy, revy subject right there, right? So what are these things? Well, I think a great deal of the Bible, historically and currently, is about what I call the 50-meter ministry. Who is next door to you? Who is your neighbor?
Yeah.
Right? Who's in need within 50 meters of your front door? And I think if you actually focused on that, you'd never move out of the neighborhood, right? You'd just minister to people, care for people, look after people, serve people in your local street. And for me, that's geographically how we're laid out.
Yep.
It's how we live. Historically, we lived in groups of 150 people, and we moved as tribes, and people thrived in those small groups because they were known, they had connection. Connection is the basis of well-being. Connection is the basis of the whole biblical narrative.
Yep.
So, yeah, different,
That
different
is
viewpoint.
that is a bit of a game changing viewpoint, actually. And hey, another big thing that happened over the weekend: 10,000 people marching through the streets of Auckland, protesting about some absolutely awful things happening on the other side of the world. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't care what is happening. Who is my neighbour applies to people on the other side of the world, but it also applies to our actual neighbours. And that if we
Does.
were as shocked and appalled as to what is happening in terms of child abuse statistics in our communities, or even that the guy next door is quietly dying of loneliness, as much as we were concerned about who's doing what on social media and what is the latest cause internationally, then, like you say, our communities would be transformed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've got a daughter who works in the education sector and in administration in that sector, and she, we had a conversation recently about the kids that she knows in the school who are being hurt, who are going hungry, the parents who have trespass notices and protection orders. This is local stuff,
Yep.
right? Very local, out your front door stuff that she knows about in the community that she's working in. And so you're right. I mean, those things apply to the guy next door that you probably don't know that well. One of my favorite statements, I use this in leadership all the time, is it's hard to hate someone whose story that you know.
Yeah.
And the implication of that is you've got to know. That means having coffee. And, again, another one of my little, company mantras is coffee fixes everything. We've got to actually stop, slow down, get to know people and understand them. And when we understand them, the whole racial, ethnic thing, part of it goes away and part of it becomes more clear. You understand who people are, what they've
Yeah.
been through, what their parents went through, where their grandparents came from.
Mm.
I mean, all that kinds of stuff. But I think we pass our ministry every day. And I, I did this ridiculous mathematical thing that if every person just reached one of their neighbours, basically within, I think it's within sort of a 7 or 8 years, we'd reach 8 billion people. I mean,
Wow.
it's just a stupid, simple mathematical equation, but it's reality.
That's
We could
that's
double the
job done.
size of our churches tomorrow if everyone took one person.
Exactly. Job done. Great commission. Sorted in 7 years. Why didn't we think of this earlier? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
part of the reason we didn't think of it earlier is we've distracted ourselves to death because honestly, I know more about Charlie Kirk than I do about my neighbour. I know more about people who are social media influencers. And hey, when I say no, I don't really know. I know sound bites. I know snapshots. I know opinion pieces and commentary that is all spilled out over the weekend. And honestly, I know a lot more about the guy and different people's opinions on him than I did before he was tragically shot. And just recognizing, look, I'm part of the problem on this one, that we know more about so-called celebrities or influencers and the causes that they are assigned to than the issues affecting people in our neighbourhood or, dare I say it, John, even our own families, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. The family one, I have to go, ouch, exclamation mark with that one because it's harder with our families,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just they know which buttons to push. We know what's inflammatory. Our families is difficult to minister to, I think, and probably easier to minister to strangers than it is to minister to people we know, and maybe that's half the battle, half the problem we've got. But I look around I'm always challenged myself because you've got to do something rather than the gospel is a do something thing. It is a spiritual approach, but it's a do something with it. You can't just listen and nod and the rest of it. And this is why the wonderful word Shema that the Old Testament uses with the calling of Isaiah, it wasn't to listen and then decide if you can do something about it. The word Shema means hear and go,
Yeah.
listen and obey, right? Move. And so for me, I've got to always challenge myself on that, Andrew. And at the moment, I've got two close friends who've gone through messy divorces, both men in ministry.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. So both men in ministry gone through terrible divorces. I mean, horrific stuff, actually. I've got another friend whose husband has got some serious mental health issues at the moment. Lovely Christian, generous Christian people, suffering, 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 suffering. So my response is, let's take a few blokes and go and shoot some pool at a local pool hall in Glenfield
Yeah.
once a week. Just have some conversation, break the barriers. I suck at the game, and so do they, actually, to be honest. But we're having look. It's because it's not about the game, right? It's about hanging out.
Yeah.
And so I think we've just got to do, what can we do? What can we do for people? Because the gospel is not just, I'm going to pray for you. It is let me walk with you. And I wish, this has been gut honest, I wish God would whip out the magic wand. I wish he'd do a Harry Potter on some things at the moment, because I'm sure there's a number of people listening who'd say, yeah, we need that. We need the magic wand at the moment because some things are not right. But we're called to keep going, keep walking, keep supporting, keep loving. And I think that is the answer to all of these things. Just keep loving people, keep serving people.
And hey, I love the point you made earlier. And hey, maybe we're the magic wand in this regard. If each of us reached one neighbour in 7 years, job done. That 50-metre ministry mindset, that is a game changer, John. And yes, we keep praying. Yes, we keep trusting God. But we don't wait for him to wave a magic wand. We get on with doing the work he has called us to do in the meantime. Not on our phones, not raging on the interwebs, but coming alongside people who are struggling and hurting. John, thank you so much for the ministry that you have. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, nice to see you, man.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.